So I've opened this news website over here and let's see. Yeah, this article looks interesting. If I open this, I want to read it, but I don't have time to read this whole thing over here, right? So that is why I built this Chrome extension. If you see this icon over here, if I click on it, it will give you three choices: brief, detailed, and bullet points. Let's click on brief and click on summarize. And there we go. It has given a summary to me of this whole article. We have two more options over here. Let's click on detailed and it's loading. And you can see it has given me more detailed summary of this. If I want bullet points, I can click on over here and summarize. And there we go. I have all of the bullet points over here. So how do we go on and build this Chrome extension? It's much more easier than you think. From creating the manifest file to writing the full-fledged script for your own Chrome extension. But before moving forward, hit that subscribe button as hard as you can because you won't find content like this anywhere else on YouTube. Alright, so open VS Code over here and let's start building our Chrome extension. So the very first step is to open any folder where you want to write the code for this Chrome extension. So basically I've created this AI article summarizer. So the very first file and the file which is basically a DNA of a Chrome extension is manifest.json file. So click on new file and I'm going to say manifest.json, right? Now, inside this, we can tell Chrome about what this extension is going to be, right? What are all the permissions that it needs? What are all the files that it needs? All of the scripts related to, Popup that we will be showing on the Chrome and all the background scripts, etc. All of these details will be inside of this file right here, right? But before moving forward, a lot of you might be looking for a development job right now or probably that next freelance gig. And you know what would make you seem like the right professional for the job? A .dev or .app domain where you can feature your portfolio at one single place. And that is why I wanted to tell you guys about Porkbun, the most affordable registrar on the internet. Other registrars charge a lot of money for .dev or .app, then add extra fees for basics you actually need. With Porkbun, you can grab the same domain for sometimes about half the price. You also get free Whois privacy, free SSL certificates, and even trial web and email hosting to get your site and custom email running right away. Their simple dashboard puts all of your settings, DNS records and forwarding tools in one easy place. So you spend less time fiddling and more time building. It's no wonder Porkbun was named the #1 domain registrar for the last 3 years in a row by USA Today. So grab your .dev or .app for less than $6 for your first year by clicking the link in the description down below. So just open curly braces over here. And the first thing that we will be needing is manifest_version. So the very latest version that is going on nowadays is version 3. Right, so make sure that you write 3 over here. If you're watching this video in future, just quickly Google search and check what is the latest manifest version that is right now. But currently it's version 3 as of recording this video. And after this, we need to define the name of our Chrome extension, right? So I'm gonna simply just name it AI summary for articles, right? Cool. And what is the version of our extension? So 1.0, right? This is the very first version of our extension. Now, what are all the permissions that we will be needing from the Chrome for our extension? First of all, since we are going to be taking out the content of a website, right? So we will obviously be needing the right for scripting, right? To run JavaScript code permission. So inside this permissions, we will have an array. And first thing I will need is a scripting permission, right? And then I want the ability to let Popup talk to the current tab that user has clicked, right? So I'll say active tab, and again, you can learn more about these permissions and all if you just go to their official documentation. In fact, you can just ask ChatGPT as well, right? Whatever permission that you need will tell you the exact keyword that you need to write over here. And the third one is the storage. So basically storage will be needed for storing the user's Gemini API key securely, right? Now, after this, we need to define our action. So action object is basically all of the default files and stuff that we are going to be providing our extension. Like for example, the HTML of the popup, right? So I'll say default_popup is going to be popup.html. This is where we will be writing all of the code related to our HTML, right? Whichever will be shown in our Chrome extension. And a default_icon. Right, this is the default icon that we'll be using. So let's just say icon.png, and actually you need to have an icon.png file over here. If you don't have it, I have given the link to my GitHub repository in the description below, so you can come over here and just click on this icon.png. So if you want, you can use this icon that I've added here and just download it. and paste it right here inside of your folder, right? So now it should work. Now the next thing that we'll be needing over here is the content scripts, right? So inside this object, and actually not object, it will be an array, and then we'll be having an object because there can be multiple content script, right? So what is a content script? So it basically helps us query the DOM of that particular web page, right? So I'm going to say matches all URLs, and then we can tell it what is the name of the file, right? So we're going to keep the name of the file as content.js, right? Simple enough. After this, we need to define the script for our service worker. So what are the service worker or background scripts? So basically when you run your extension for the very first time, this script will run. When I installed the extension or when I loaded the extension, it was asking me for the Gemini API key, right? So that is the use case for the background script in our case, right? So I'm going to say background. Inside this, I'm going to say service worker is going to be the background.js file. Okay, now we will have one more thing. So basically, after this has routed us to a page where we can enter the Gemini API, right? So we need to create the UI for that as well, right? So for that, we're going to be having an options page, right? So which I'm going to say options.html. And then we are going to be giving some host permissions that is we are allowed to hit any website, right? So I'll say host permission is going to be all URLs, right? And yeah, that is basically it. And by the way, this has to be called as options page only because this is the built-in link for the Chrome, right? Which shows as the extensions options, where we can configure the extensions options. Okay, why don't we go on and try to run this now, right? So I'm going to quickly go to my Chrome and over here, go to a new tab and enter Chrome//extensions and press enter. And this is where you will land, right? You can see I have some pre-installed extensions right here. I'm going to click on load unpacked and just go to the folder where your extension files are, right? So I'm going to click on this AI article summarizer and click on select folder, and it shows that required value version is missing or invalid. Did I misspell it? Okay, so I think this should be this should be a string, right? So now let's click on retry. Could not load the JavaScript content.js, obviously because we have not created all of these files right here. So why don't we quickly go on and create all of these files? Let's say popup.html. We will need this content.js as well, right? So I'll say content.js. We will also need popup.js file. We will be needing this background.js file. So I'll create this background.js as well. We will need this options.html. So let's add that. And yeah, I think now it should not be giving us any error. Yes, you can see it has been loaded. Let's just go to a new Chrome tab, or even here as well. We can click on this AI article. You can see the icon for this over here, right? If I click on it, it won't show anything right here, right? Because we have not written the popup.html code up until now. So why don't we go on and work? But actually, before that, when we loaded this Chrome extension, background script should run, right? So why don't we go on and take care of that first? Because it's a very simple script. So if I go to this background.js file, I'm going to say Chrome, and this is basically the inbuilt functions of the Chrome that I'm going to be writing over here. So I'll say chrome.runtime.onInstalled.add listener. And so this takes a callback function. And here, first of all, we will check, is the Gemini API key is already with us. So I'll say chrome.storage, and this is where we will be using the Chrome's inbuilt storage. And I'll say storage.async. Now there are two types of storage when it comes to Chrome. Sorry, not async, it should be sync. So it's basically local and sync. So local stores the API key locally inside your current browser, but sync stores it across all of your Chrome sessions, right? Like for example, if you have multiple Chrome accounts inside of your PC or your laptop, right? So this will synchronize all of those accounts with this particular storage, right? So I'm going to say .get. And inside this, I'm going to have an array where I'm going to say Gemini API key. Obviously, you can name it whatever you want. I have named it Gemini API key. And then we will have a callback function over here. Inside this, we can say if, and actually we need to take result over here, whatever the result of this condition was. So I'll say if not result dot Gemini API key, then what will happen? Then we will open the Chrome extensions options, right? The options page, that is options.html. So I'll say chrome.tabs.create. We will open a new tab with the URL options.html. That is this right here. Let's just write something over here, right? So let's just say extension options, right? And over here, I can just simply say hello. And in fact, in our popup.html also, I'm just gonna say AI summarizer hello from popup, right? Let's save it and go back. I'll actually remove this and load it again. I'm gonna click on select folder and notice, yep, as soon as I loaded this extension, it sent me to this page right here with this hello HTML, right? So you can see this is the inbuilt script for the Chrome that it sends to a particular options.html, right? So yeah, this is super cool, right? Building a Chrome extension, it provides us so many things out of the box. And yeah, if I go on over here, let's just pin it. And I'm going to click on it. You can see hello from popup, right? So this looks cool. Let's give this some basic styles. I'm just going to give it some inline styles over here. If you want, you can use Tailwind CSS by installing the Tailwind CSS through CDN. But we're not going to use all of that. We're going to keep it very simple, right? So style equals min width is going to be 200 pixels. Padding is going to be 10 pixels. Some font family of sans serif, right? Simple enough. Let's go back and see. You can see we have some padding and all, some font change, etc. Cool. Now let's go on and build our actual UI over here. So first of all, I'm going to have a select tag with the ID of summary type. And we will have 3 options inside of it, right? So our summary can be like brief, detailed, or bullet points. So I'm going to have 3 options. First, we'll have value brief, then detailed, and then bullets. Then we will have 2 buttons over here. So I'll say button, this will be summarize, ID will be summarize. And then we will have another button for copying the generated result, right? And then we will have a tag called pre. So pre, as you can see over here, represents a block of pre-formatted text in which structure is represented by typographic convention. So basically this will show us a box over here inside this where we will be rendering our summaries, right? By default, we will be rendering this text over here. And as I mentioned, we will be needing a popup.js as well, right? So let's just load that script. So I'll say script src popup.js. Right, let's see how this looks. Okay, there we go. Brief, detail, bullet points, summarize, copy, and this pre. All right, let's just have an h2 over here, which will simply say AI summary. And let's have a div as well, inside of which we will keep this select tag so that we can style it better. And actually, both of these buttons as well, right? We will be adding a CSS in just a moment. So pre over here helps us preserve the white space in the summary text and helps format it as well, right? All right, so now let's go on and style it a little bit. So I'm gonna remove these styles from over here, and let's have a head tag again. If you want, you can add the title. I'm just gonna say AI summarizer, and below it, I'm gonna have a style tag. So inside this style tags, I'm just gonna quickly import all of the CSS because see, this tutorial is more about building a Chrome extension, right? CSS is something very basic that you can write it yourself and you should customize it yourself as well, right? So I'm just styling my h2 options, buttons, right? All of the buttons over here, the result tag, and I've added a loader over here as well. Very basic CSS. I have not done anything out of the box over here, right? So if I check, yes, this looks good. Awesome. We're ready to move forward. All right, now that we have added, we have built our HTML, let's go to our popup.js file and add the JavaScript. So let me just quickly test it out if it's working or not. So I'll say quick document.get element by ID. I'm gonna get this element right here, this button. So I'll add over here and I'm gonna listen to the click events, right? So I'll simply say dot add event listener click. And whenever we click on it, we should get the console log as summarize clicked. Okay, so obviously we need to open the console. So just make sure right click over here and click on inspect. This will have a completely separate console. So if I click on summarize, just go to this console right here, you can see summarize clicked. Awesome. So this is working fine. So you see, this is all just a normal HTML and JavaScript and CSS code that we are writing over here. Building a Chrome extension is not a rocket science, right? It's pretty simple. Now let's go on and work on our content.js file first. So this file right here, it runs inside of the web page DOM, right? And it will help us to query the element. Like for example, if you want to extract some article from a web page, this will help us out, right? So I'll create a function over here called get article text. And now generally, if you have seen the blogging website, like for example, if I just show you, Like I've opened this roadsidecoder.hashnode.com, or you can open any blogging website. If I open, let's say, this article right here, right? If I right click and click on inspect, you will see this whole blog right here is inside of this article tag, right? So this is a good accessibility practice that most of the websites follow, right? So we just need to get this article tag and we will get the access to most of the things inside of this, right? So first of all, I'm going to say const article equals document.querySelector article. And I'll check over here. If the article is there, then return article.innerText. We will get the inner text of that particular article. Now, we will take out all of the paragraphs from this particular article, right? So I'll say const paragraphs equals array.from. We will say, first of all, document.querySelector all. We will take all of the paragraphs and then we will form an array out of it. So this will basically return us an object. And this array.from creates an array from the iterable object, right? So it will convert this into an object. And now after this, I'm just going to simply say paragraphs.map. We will take each and every paragraph and I'll say p.innerText. We will take out the inner text and we will join them using /n. So basically /n is for giving a new line, right? So we will divide all of them in a new line. So we will join all of these paragraphs with this /n so that we have one big text over here in this that we are returning from this get article text function right here. All right, cool. Now, basically inside of the content.js file, this listens for some commands from popup.js, right? It will not automatically run, obviously, right? When we click on over here, like over here in the summarize button, only then we will trigger this function, right? Or this file. So we have to say chrome.runtime.onMessage. So this is the function that we'll be using. And I'll say .add listener, right? Now inside this add listener, we will have a callback, right? And this will take a bunch of things like the request, which is the sender, like who is the sender, and send response function, right? Now inside this callback, we will listen to a specific type of request, right? So I'll say if request dot type equals to get underscore article underscore text, only then we will do something, right? Else we will not do anything because it can be called anytime, right? And like for whatever request. So whenever this happens, then we will call this function, right? This get article text. So I'll say const text equals get article text. Now that we have all of the text, then we can send the response back to popup.json. So I'll say send response and text right here, right? Simple enough. And this will be, returned asynchronously, by the way. So basically, in short, you can consider this code right here as the scraping script. All right, cool. Now let's go on and work on our popup.js file. So let me show you how we will be triggering this thing right here, right? This content.js file. So we are clicking on this summarize button right here, right? So we will get the text, but we need to put it somewhere. So we will put it inside of our over here in the result div, right? So I'll say const result equals document.getElementById result. We will get the result div. Then meanwhile it is getting it, I'm going to say result.text content equals extracting text. We will show it is loading. Then I'm going to say chrome.tabs.query. So this basically helps us find the active tab so that we know that which page we are supposed to talk to, right? And this takes an object over here. So I'll say active to be true. We are defining some configurations over here and current window to be true, right? So these are the things that we want. And then we will have a comma callback right here, which will take the current tab that we are going to be working with, right? Now simply, I'm just going to give you a very simple example over here how we can use the content.js file to render stuff. So I'm just going to simply just take all of the data inside the article and render for now in the result div. And for calling it, we will be using chrome.tabs.sendMessage, right? So inside this, I'll give the tab.id and then the type of the action, right? So the action over here was this get article text. So I'll say type equals get article text. And then the third one will be a callback, which will take text that is returned from there, right? So now simply we can let me just show you by rendering it as such, right? So I'll say result.text content equals text, and I'll just render the first 300 characters, right? Else I'm going to say no article text found. So let me show you. And I've written, I have to write tabs over here. Yeah, that's nice. Let's go and check. So I'm going to click on over here, click on summarize, and there we go. We have our article right here. Awesome. All right, cool. So now let's go on and work on our options page, right? Whenever we load the extension for the very first time, that page opens, right? We have just written hello over here. So let's go on and accept the Gemini API key from the user. So the UI for this is going to be very simple. We're just gonna have an input where we can ask the user to enter the API key, and then we can store that API key inside of Chrome's storage. So inside of the body, let's first have an h1 tag, and then I'm gonna have a div with class name form group. Inside of this, I'll have a label. This will be for the API key input. Let's say Gemini API key. Then let's have a input of type text. ID is going to be API key, and placeholder is going to be enter your Gemini API key. Then let's say if user does not know where they need to get the API key. After that, we can just simply show a p tag where we can say you can get an API key from, and we can show this a tag over here with link to the Google AI Studio where they can get their API key. Alright, simply then after this div, we're gonna have a button for saving our settings, and I'm gonna have a p tag again for settings saved successfully when the user has clicked on this button, and after this API key has been stored in the Chrome. Now obviously we're gonna have to connect it with our options.js file as well. So options.js. So I'm just gonna say script src to be options.js. Let's see how this looks like. So if I remove this extension now, and if we load it for the very first time, select folder, you're gonna see it opens up this page right here. If you want, you can leave it just like this, or you can style it as I'm going to style it just right now. So obviously we're not gonna be needing these meta tags right here. I'm just gonna simply have a style tag here. And again, don't worry about the styles. You can, style it in whatever the way you like. There's no restrictions over here. So simply in the body, I'm just saying some font family, padding, max width and margin. I'm giving some color to the heading, some basic styling for our label, and for our input, we're just providing it with some width and padding, some border radius, so it looks good from the side. For button, we're just giving it a bluish color, just like we did earlier. On hover, what happens, right? Success message will be green, right? It's very basic stylings over here. If I just refresh it, yep, something like this, right? This looks good. If I click on this right here, we are taken to Google AI Studio. And over here, simply you can click on create API key, and you can create a Google Cloud project over here and select any of the project and click on create API key in the existing project, right? And this will create a brand new API key for you. So there we go. This is my API key. I can just copy it up and I can put it right inside of it and save settings. But obviously it won't work since we have not written the logic for it. So let's go to options.js. And first of all, what do we need to listen? First of all, we need to listen when the page has loaded, right? If the page has been loaded. So I'll say document.add event listener. And inside this, we have DOM content loaded, right? This will run, this callback will run only if our page has been loaded. Now let's say if user has already entered the API key and then they open this page right here, right? So we can show the pre-filled API key. So I'll say chrome.storage.sync.get. And inside this, I'm gonna get my Gemini API key. After this, we're gonna have a callback to perform something. So obviously, we're gonna get our API key right here. And then I'm gonna say if Gemini API key is there, I'll say document.getElementById API key. So if you remember, this is the API key, this input tag right here, right? ID API key. So I'll say just fill the value with this Gemini API key. Cool. Now after this, we want to save the API key, right? If it's not already saved. So I'll say document.getElementById, and I want to target the save button. And I'm going to apply the event listener of click on this. So I'll say click. And then whenever we click on it, this callback will run. Now inside this callback, we need to fetch the API key from this API key input, right? So I'll say const API key equals document.getElementById API key value, and I'm going to trim it from the sides, right? And if it's found empty, so I'll say if API key is not there, then return it. But if that is not the case, then we will again use this Chrome storage, but this time I'm going to say set, right? We're going to set the Gemini API key. So over here, I'll say Gemini API key to be API key. And then we can show the success message. So inside of this callback right here, if you remember, our success message was this. And by default, we are putting it as display none, right? So we will make a display block. So I'll say document.get element by id success message dot style dot display equals block. Then after that, we will just, show it for 1 second and then we're going to close it. So I'll say set timeout window dot close after 1 second. And yeah, I think that should do it. Let's get our API key again. Let's try it out. I'm going to enter it right here, save settings. Okay, settings saved successfully and it has been closed. Awesome. So it should have been stored inside of our Chrome storage. Awesome. So we have done everything to set up our extension right here, right? The only thing remaining is to add the AI to fetch the content. We are already fetching the content. We need to summarize it over here, right? To fetch the whole blog and then summarize it. All right, let's go. So we need to go to this popup.js file. This is where our main AI logic is also going to be. Now, before moving forward, if you're someone who's preparing for front-end interviews, you can definitely go and check out my front-end interview preparation course. This is the only thing that you will ever need to prepare for your front-end interviews. And not only this, I've covered every single topic of React.js, like React Router DOM, Redux, all of the hooks, class-based component, function-based component React, even the performance optimization, which is asked from senior developers a lot, tons of machine coding questions as well, and obviously in-depth interview preparation course on JavaScript as well. And not just this, along with this course, you get an active Discord community where you can ask your doubts whenever you get stuck and we will be there to help you. So click the link in the description down below because right now we're having the biggest sale of the year for a very limited time. So don't forget to check it out. Or you can also scan this QR code on your screen to go directly to the course page. So first of all, as you can already see, we're doing this. Const result equals document.getElement by id result. So if you go to the HTML, popup.html, this is what we're getting, right? Because this is where we're supposed to display it. But we need a secondary input as well, which is going to be the summary type, right? What type of summary is going to be brief, detailed, or bullet points? So we need to take one more. I'm going to say const summary type equals document.getElement by id summary type dot value. Okay, so we have both of these things, right? Now, obviously, we need to show loading as well. So this is very basic loading. So instead of this, I'm going to say result div, that is this one. So actually, let me just call it result div. This is better. Dot inner HTML, we can show this div with the loader. And you might have already seen that I have applied this loader classes right here. Again, if you just want, you can keep the simple text loading. I just got this loader from Google, right? Because who knows how to create loader using CSS. So this is a simple spinning animation. All right, so after this, first step would be to get user's API key. Then the second step would be to ask content.js for the page text. Third step would be to send text to Gemini for the processing. And then in the end, we can return it to the user, right? So, okay, let's get started over here. To get it from the Chrome storage, obviously, we're going to use chrome.storage.sync.get, right? And over here in the array, I'm going to say Gemini API key. And after that, we're going to have a callback where we're going to get the Gemini API key. And then inside of it, we're going to first check if we have the API key or not. If we don't have the API key, so if not API key, then simply in the result div, we're going to show no API key set. Click the gear icon to add one. All right. Below this, this is what we're going to do. Ask content.js for the page text. So we are already doing it right here. So let me just copy this thing up and paste it, but obviously we have to make some changes. We are querying it, active true, current window true, okay. We're taking the tab ID, the type of action that we're trying to perform, and okay, inside of this is where we are going to be writing our logic. So first of all, we're going to check if this text has anything. So I'll say if not text, then we can simply display couldn't extract text from this page, okay. Then after this, we're going to send this text to Gemini. So I'll have a try catch block where we'll make the call to Gemini. So I'll say const summary equals await, and we will create a function called get Gemini summary, right? Obviously this function does not exist, but we will create it very soon. So we'll provide it the text, summary type, and the Gemini API key, all of these three things. And obviously it will give us some error because this should be an asynchronous callback since we're using await over here. Then simply after this, we have gotten the summary. We can just show it inside of our result div.text content. Then inside of the catch, we can show any error. If there's any error, again, inside the result div.text content, Gemini error, and whatever the error is. Cool. Let's go and create this function now. So I'll just, actually this should be right here. This is the third step, but we have to create the functions. So I'm going to say asynchronous function. We're going to call it get Gemini summary, right? And we're taking raw text type and the API key over here. All right, now imagine there might be some article which is huge, right? So we're gonna limit it to 20,000 characters for now. If you want, you can remove this limit. It's completely on you. But for now, I'm gonna keep const max equals 20,000, right? And I'm gonna say if raw text dot length is more than this limit, then raw text dot slice 0 to max. We're only gonna take it till that plus dot dot dot, right? Else we're just gonna simply take the raw text, right? So this is where we have our final text. Cool. Now we need to design the prompt. So since we have 3 types of summary, right, inside of our app. So if I show you over here, we have 3 types of summary: brief, detailed, and bullet points. So for each one of these, we will create prompt. So I'm gonna have a prompt map. Inside of brief, I'll say summarize this in 2 to 3 sentences with this text, right? For detailed, give a detailed summary, and for bullets, summarize in 5 to 7 bullet points. Start each line with this because this might give weird formatting. That's why I've added this, right? After this, we can just decide which type we need to take. So I'll say const prompt equals prompt type and provide this type right here. If there's no type provided, we're just gonna simply take the brief because that is default, right? All right, now we are going to hit Gemini API. So if you see again in this Gemini documentation right here, not documentation, I mean Gemini API key page, you can see they've given this curl that we need to hit, content type, and we need to provide it like this. So let me show you how you can write this in JavaScript. Const response equals await fetch. Inside of this fetch, we are going to be using this link. So let's copy it up, and in backticks, I'm going to paste it right here. Instead of 2.0, let's just use 1.5. That is cheaper to use, and like it has more limit. Like I think it has higher limit than 2.0 Flash. If you want, you can use 2.0 Flash as well. Doesn't really matter. So instead of this Gemini API key, instead of this, I'll say API key right here that we're getting from over here. Then I'm going to say comma. Inside this object, we are providing our prompt and the method, right? So method is going to be post. We're going to have the header of content type. I'll say headers, content type, application/JSON. And then after it, in the body, we're going to say JSON.stringify, and we're going to provide the content parts. Text is going to be prompt. So you can see this is how they have done it over here as well, right? And this is optional. If you want to increase the temperature like this, this thing, you can check it out. It basically means how creative you want the model to be. If you want, you can remove this as well. You can check out more about this generation config. It has more options over here. All right, now that we have gotten the response, I'm going to check. If response.ok is not true, then we can show the error, right? Throw new error, request failed. But if it is true, then I'm going to take the response, also response.json, and then after it, we're going to format it. I'll say return data.candidate. And again, this is how we have to do it because this is how Gemini API responds. So I'll say data.candidates. We're going to take the 0th index, take out the content from inside of it, parts, 0th index, and this is where the text is going to be. You can go and explore their documentation from right here, and this is what you will find over there, right? Okay, if there is not present, I'll say no summary, and we are simply returning it over here. And yeah, I think they should do it. Let's go and check it out. If I go on over here, refresh this page, and let's click on summarize. It's loading, and awesome. You can see it is giving us this summary right here. But we have to make this copy button work as well, right? Currently it's not working. We have not added the functionality for it. So let's go to the very bottom. Let's first get this copy button. I'll say document.getElement by ID copy button dot add event listener, and I'll add a click event over here. When we click on it, it will fire off this callback, and inside of it, I'm gonna first get everything inside of our result div, right? So I'll say const txt equals document.getElement by ID result in our text. If it's not present, I'm gonna return it. Then after that, simply we're gonna use the navigator API for from JavaScript, right? So I'm gonna say navigator.clipboard.write text, and actually this is not in JavaScript; it's more inside of our browser. So right, we are going to write this text inside of our clipboard, and after this is done, we're gonna say dot. Then inside of the copy button, we're gonna change it to copied for 2 seconds, and then we're gonna bring back the old text content. So you'll see if I click on this. Oh, sorry, let me just refresh it, and let's summarize it in bullet points. There we go. If I click on copy, it will show copied and now it's gone. Let's try to paste it over here. Yes, we can see it over here. Awesome. So this is how you go on and build your own very own Chrome extension. Now, if you want to host this Chrome extension on the Chrome extension store, I think they charge somewhere around $5 or something. So let's see, Chrome extension hosting. So you can see distribute your extension right here. And they've given this option right here, publish in the Chrome web store. And there we go. You can follow all these steps. Go to Chrome developer dashboard. You have to agree to their privacy policy and pay one-time $5 registration fee. Then you can sign your developer account, click on add new item, and then you can upload your zip file, and that is it. That is all you need to do, and you can publish it on Chrome extension store. So let me know in the comments down below if you want me to build more Chrome extensions on this channel. And definitely check out Porkbun by clicking the link in the description down below to get your .dev and .app domains.